Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Negative Alpha Bravo. And this is 7 November Golf. Roger, request you check your Romeo side. I'll go ahead and check my Tango side. 7 November Golf out. November 8-5, and 8-5, 7 November, say again. Roger, 7 November, go. I copied a while ago, 1 Charlie transmission that my can use November, go, 1 Charlie, and 8-5, this is 7 November, Charlie. Now 1 Charlie, 7 November, go.
This is 1 Charlie, reference to your lines. You're Brandon 158 extra box track, 1200 between teams and local. Also request your unit take outbound records to see if we can try to get Whiskey 9 and 8 for pause into the playground.
And this is 7 November, Roger, stand by.
Got that.
Got it? Alright. And all units, this is 7 November Golf. My unit Alpha, Echo, X-ray Alpha Alpha in there.
One Charlie, Alpha Bravo.
Hey, I never took a dip. I forgot to take a dip.
Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Whiskey 9, Yankee, 7 November Golf, over. Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Whiskey 9, Yankee, 7 November Golf, over. Whiskey 9, 7 November, interrogative Alpha Bravo. Negative Alpha Bravo. And this is 7 November Golf. Roger, request you check your Romeo side. I'll go ahead and check my Tango side. 7 November Golf out. November 8-5, and 8-5, 7 November, say again. Roger, 7 November, go.
Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap, the Civ Div, Veterans Daily, wherever you're joining us from. We appreciate you making it to the live. Definitely a little more, I guess, impactful when we can get together live and share some information with you. Look, even when the government is shut down, Clay, there's still moving pieces and things are still kind of interweaving in and out, and maybe there's news out there that some folks are not aware of. And so just wanted to do this to try to reach everybody and let them know. We're going to talk about a few different things. We're going to talk about some legislation that's been introduced that's beneficial to veterans, talk about legislation that's already kind of been on the works and maybe even doing more than 1 or 2 circuits in the Congresses. And also the rating schedule changes, which we've talked about multiple times, but we need to keep that on the burner because it hasn't happened yet, and it will happen. And we just need to make sure that everybody's prepared, whether it's your first time or not. So the other piece, Clay, is that sometimes it sounds like we are a broken record sometimes. And there is a method to that madness, right? We have new brothers and sisters that are consistently joining and watching for the first times, and this is maybe new information. We need to collectively, I think, work to share the information directly, and it takes all of us, and sometimes it takes us listening to ourselves talk the same talk. So all that to say is, hey, look, thank you guys so much. We appreciate your, and I know I'm talking a lot, Clay's tired. We appreciate you so much. It's unbelievable. And without you guys, we're nothing, right? So it's really, we're just kind of the spokesperson for us in a lot of sense. in sharing the word, and it really does. It's all of us. We're all equally important. It's just we have different kind of jobs, right? So we appreciate you sharing information, liking, subscribing, all that stuff, letting videos run. All of that helps to keep the momentum going, and we really do appreciate that. And I know I'm speaking for Clay too. So Clay, I'm going to let you just kind of say a few things because I feel like sometimes I just talk too much. So Clay,
Yeah,
how you doing?
I got you. I'm a little tired. All right, I'm a little tired. I do see a question here that I think is pertinent. We can just get this off the table right now. It says, have we heard VA disability payments are going to be late during the shutdown? That answer is no. Okay, payments aren't going to be late at all. That would affect your November 1st paycheck because it's for the prior month. And so everyone's going to get their November 1st paycheck. I knew if we didn't answer that question, that was just going to like, everyone was going to be a little on edge there. But yeah, there's a lot of changes happening. Some are good when it comes to legislation. Most recently, Made a Richer Star Act just got shot down pretty hard too. It didn't even go to a vote, which is weird because the person who shot it down, it was one person. His name's Wicker, Senator Wicker. He's a retired Air Force officer, meaning he did 20 years. And the reason he shut it down, he makes a statement. Basically, he says that's double dipping, which is weird for him to say that because you would assume a retiree has at least 50% disability from the VA. And if that's the case, then you get CRDP, which means you get your full retirement, full VA. And so I'm curious if he's double dipping himself, but he used that as an argument to shoot down the Made a Richer Star Act. And I do want to hit on that because everyone thinks it's only about 50,000-ish veterans. So let's just call it 60,000 just to kind of give some buffer space right there. It's a small number, 60,000 veterans, and it's not like the people rolled their ankle and got medically retired. All right, I had the VFW's national legislative director in my basement like a year and a half ago.
All right,
He was medically retired, and he was medically retired because he stepped on an IED and blew his freaking leg off, okay? And the running thing around the VA, which, by the way, is fake news, this 4-year administrator never deployed, got 100% for PTSD, but the guy with no legs got denied. Like, that's fake news. Don't listen to it.
Right.
Except in this case, it's not the VA denying the veteran, it's Congress. And let alone that, it's a retired Air Force officer who is probably collecting CRDP, who's double dipping, who kind of blocked it to a vote. Now, I don't think it would have passed a vote anyways, personally, because anything with money involved right now is not a good topic to have in the government. So that's, I think, this legislation that we took a loss on. It doesn't affect me, obviously. But those who are affected, I would argue, are the most disabled of the veteran community, right? And it's like, well, that sucks.
Yeah, I'm on the same page. Look, it doesn't affect me, and it doesn't affect the majority of veterans out there, right? The majority of veterans never retire, right? The majority do their time, they get out. Doesn't affect me, but I am a full supporter of it. I think that it is it's an absolute must. And the other piece that was said in the reasoning for not allowing it to move forward by him was that there was no offset, right? There was no funny offsets, right? How funny. So, but there was no way to pay for it. In my opinion, there's no way not to pay for it. Like, you just have to do it. You just have to suck it up and do it and figure it out. I don't really care. In the giant, huge picture, it's nothing. Sure, it's a decent amount of money, but in the big picture of government spending, it's not. And it's really a sad situation. I would, look, here's the thing. And then we're going to move on from this. There's several pieces of legislation I want to throw out to folks and just kind of start talking about some things. But before I switch gears, when it comes to legislation and things, we really have to be, I don't know, call it toe the line. I don't really know what the right word is, but we need to come together, even when it doesn't benefit you specifically, right? Because many voices are what make things happen, and a win for one is a win for all in this world of veterans benefits. And I think that making the phone calls, and when I say making the phone call to your congressional member, it can be something as easy as make the phone call. If you don't want to talk to a person, then fine, call after hours, leave a message, and just say that you're disheartened and you hope that they do whatever, right? Whether it happens now or it happens in the future, we just need to let Congress, both in the House and the Senate, know that we're paying attention. That's us as the veteran. It's us as the spouse. It's us as the dependent child that's old enough to vote. Imagine if your congressional member is getting 1,000 phone calls about this, or emails, or people stopping by their office, or whatever. That's how we put pressure. There's plenty of loud groups out there. We need to be one of them, in my opinion. So we'll stop beating that dead horse, sadly, for a minute, Clay. And I just wanted to throw out just a few, I'm not going to deep dive into them. I'll let you kind of decide where you want to go. But I want to throw these things out there just to plant the seeds to know what we're going to be talking about. Number one, COLA, the cost of living adjustment, typically would have already been announced. For those that don't know, we already would have known by now what the actual percentage will be. Now, that sucks. Government shutdown slowed down all the processing of the indices for CPI, all that stuff. We now have a new date for that. So they're going to actually be pushing that out. That's good. There is some legislation out there called the Heroes Earned Affordable Lifts Act, HEAL Act. And that, for those that don't know, in 2010, Congress enacted the mileage rate for your visits to the VA at 41.5 cents, and they authorized the VA to make changes to that and move it upward as we move along. And guess what? They haven't changed it one time. And so there's legislation out there to rectify that. So that's a good thing. There's another bill called the Fair Housing for Disabled Veterans Act. And really what this is doing, and if I kind of just pull it into a nutshell, it's really eliminating our disability compensation and pension payments. It's amending the IRS code and removing it from the IRS code. Now, granted, look, we're not taxed on it, but it does count as income for some safety net programs, which again is some of our brothers and sisters that are the most vulnerable, right? So that's another a big one out there. And, we obviously, Clay, have all of the rating schedule changes that are supposed to be happening here at some point that have gotten kicked down the road a few times. And we have to talk about that too. So that's in my mind some of the bigger things that we should be aware of and know about. Do you want to take any direction on where we go from here?
I do. We have an emergency that happened. We have $100 donation, which is absolutely insane along for the ride. I feel weird. Just thank you. Okay. We definitely appreciate it. I don't know which channel it's on because we're streaming on the CivDiv, Veterans Info Tap, and Veterans Daily right now. But if it helps one of us, it helps all of us. I definitely appreciate that. And then he says, thanks to you both. I got 100% PNT. I got something for this, Jason. Hold on. Wait till you see this. Look at this.
Oh, let's see it.
Nice. Isn't that cool? All right. Congrats to you along for the ride. He says he used AME, which is American Medical Experts, and did the head-to-toe process. Thanks for everything you do, or you both do to help veterans. That's awesome, dude. If you want to use AME for a Nexus Letter DBQ on all 3 channels, you'll see the AME link right down there below. You can go ahead and they have a free consultation. You can speak to them when it comes to your VA disability claim, especially if you're facing a denial. Okay, that kind of I know we took a turn there.
Yeah. Perfect.
But to rope it back, I think we start with COLA. That would be a safe way to start. And we have the final projected number, but it's pretty much going to be cut and clear at this point. I have a little chart here. This is my cute little chart I made on Excel. This is what we're getting right now. This is if you're single. Okay, I just did the single. You can do your math for the dependents. This is 2.5. That's 2.6. I think we should just look at 2728. And I'm just going to look at 10, 50, and 100, and then you can kind of wherever you fall in. So at 10, you'll be making 180 and a quarter. At 50, I had to do some counting there. It's 1131, and then at 100%, it's 3934. And at 2.8, it's pretty much the same across the board, except for 100%, you're looking at 3938. And when I did a video on this, I'm sure you've done yours too. A lot of people were like complaining, and I totally get it. All right. It's not really keeping up with inflation. It's just kind of the increase is actually an overall decrease if you do the math. But how I like to look at it is that's like an extra tank of gas in my car, and I'm going to take the win. Okay.
Right.
But yeah, so I think it's 2.83 or 76. I think it's going to round to 2.8. We'll have to see what it actually looks like, but it's said to be released on the 24th, maybe the 25th. Government shutdown is what it is. It gets kicked back later. Who knows?
Right. Yeah. So the the CPI number.
While you're talking, I'm gonna make this shareable to everyone. I didn't even think about it, and then I'm gonna post it on all 3 channels so that way people can have access to it.
Yeah, perfect. So the CPI data, they're aware in that office that they need to calculate the CPI numbers, specifically the CPI-W indice, in order for Social Security to determine the actual COLA for September, right? So it's September numbers. We have July, we have August. We're waiting on September's. They are going to calculate those. They've made that commitment, and they've announced that they are going to release that on the 24th, Friday the 24th. Once Social Security has those numbers, the Social Security Administration should be able to go ahead and calculate that. The amount of folks that are furloughed at Social Security it's less than 20%. It's probably like 17%, I think, of their workforce is furloughed. So Social Security is aware and on board. I'm anticipating that we should have the formal announcement. For those that don't know, a couple different things. One, Social Security announces the actual COLA, and then by legislation, VA is allowed to mirror that number for some specific VA benefits. Now, we are anticipating, again, the 2.7%, which is actually the Social Security or the Senior Citizens League. That is their projection is 2.7. And then Mary Johnson, who is a former analyst for Social Security or for the Senior Citizens League, she does her own calculations, and her estimate is 2.8. So we're probably going to be 2.7, 2.8. I mean, it's pretty fair to go with that. So I'm with you, Clay. Look, the reality is that, yeah, it's not enough to cover it. But would you rather be short $20, $30? Would you rather lose money? No. So we're actually gaining, and that's a good thing. It's better than nothing. And the way that we should look at it is it's kind of a compounded interest sort of a thing. Every year it's interest, it's a percentage up, and it's a percentage that's compounded. And so every year it's creating a little bit more and more power. Now, on that note, if you don't like how it's calculated, there has been a couple attempts in Congress, both on the House side and the Senate side, to change how COLA is calculated. The most common change that they talk about is switching the indice from the CPI-W over to the CPI-E, which is the Consumer Price Index for the elderly. And if you look at the past 20 years, it would have increased by about 0.25% or so. So not gigantic, but again, it's compounding on top of itself. So over time, it's more. I don't think that we're going to get anything probably better than that. But as we move on, Clay, I think that we're probably going to see those types of things creep in again into legislation, and we'll make sure that we're informing folks, because again, it's one of those things to where It's the quiet mouths don't get fed. So, once we know that there's something out there that we want to jump on, we need to be rattling our congressional members' phone. And it's not just us; it's also our spouse, our dependent children who are old enough to vote. Everybody should be saying, "Yes, do that." So, anyway, that's my piece on the COLA. Back to you, Clay.
Yeah, no. We have another super chat. Okay, I feel like we can't ignore these. Tuscan Raider, thank you very much. We all definitely appreciate that. Says supplemental claim got an independent medical opinion. That's what IMO stands for, essentially a Nexus Letter, and a DBQ from Dr. Sharma, and sufficient and actual DBQ IMO statement. VA still set me up for a CMP exam. What the heck? Yeah, so when you look at VA and CMP exam, straight up, the answer is to show up. That's the answer, okay? Anyone who tells you not to show up to an exam, you're playing with fire. There is a technicality there, but 99.9% of veterans need to show up to their exams, okay?
Right.
You can request the VA to rate your claim as is, and then you have to look at the VA's processing system too, and you'll find out that VA claims processors get more points for submitting your claim for development versus skipping that step and going straight to decision. So there's a lot of factors there, right? Like, is your DBQ and IMO actual insufficient? There's no way I can say that from this comment, right? Or did the VA claims processor just kind of go through the motions on your claim? We don't know. Okay. But yeah, the answer to your question that you didn't ask is absolutely attend your CMP exam. But what I would do is, you have the evidence. You should know what your evidence is, especially if you already had your private CMP exam, if you will. And so now you walk into that CMP exam ready to crush it. Don't talk about symptoms. That doesn't matter yet. Talk about the basis of service connection. Symptoms matter, but they don't if you skip the basis of service connection. I think a lot of veterans kind of get that on them. There is, since we did mention the government shutdown, there's rumor mill that GI Bill payments and VRE payments are delayed because of the shutdown. That's a half truth, okay? And so from what I understand is the VA is still processing GI Bill payments and VRE payments, except the computer system that they used had a glitch, okay? And I'm quoting that from, I think it was Stars and Stripes. Their system stopped working, and so now all these claims processors for education are doing them by hand. And so you can just imagine that's going really, really, really slow. And how many dependents and veterans are using education benefits right now?
Right.
I don't know that answer, but I do know that payments are going to be delayed. And the reason is not because of the government shutdown. It's because of the computer glitch. Now, you can't call about it because of the government shutdown. So that definitely sucks. But yeah, one of the, sorry, we're kind of like tree branching everywhere. To bring it back to legislation, you did bring up that there's legislation to change the IRS tax code for that. That's something that's like kind of way over my head. And I would highly recommend, if you fall into that safety net, I'm just going to say welfare. If you fall into that welfare category as a veteran, 100% what I would do is talk to David Piatek from VA Housing Education. Even if you're not looking to buy a home, right? If you just want advice on, hey, what's the best posture for me? Reach out to him. Absolutely. He is a lender for the veteran, so he can help you with the home. But he is there. I've sent so many people to him that didn't use his services that he still helped. And so he's just a good dude in that manner. Back to you, Jason.
Right. Yeah. And I think part of the point there on reaching out to David is the fact that even if you're using safety net programs, or you're only receiving VA disability compensation or VA pension, these things can be grossed up incomes if they're not taxed. And you could potentially buy, a house somewhere, depending on what state you're living in or where you're living at in that state, for sure. But definitely options for folks. Better to pay yourself, pay off your own house than pay somebody else's house off. So a couple different things kind of as you were talking, Clay. One, when it comes to DBQs, okay, a DBQ will not automatically, like Clay said, just make it to where the VA doesn't set you up for a C&P exam. And the overwhelming answer is you don't miss it. If they do it, just go to it and consider your DBQ as just more strong evidence that's in your favor in the event that you need to do anything with that, right? If you need to do a HLR, if you need to push to a supplemental and add more stuff, you can always reference back to that stuff. Utilize your DBQ as kind of we'll call it a cheat sheet to read off of if you got one done by somebody like Sharma, or if you got it done by AME, American Medical Experts, because they know what they're doing. Here's my advice to people, and I want people to get some real clarity onto this. DBQs are great if they're filled out appropriately.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could shoot yourself in the foot if you don't know what you're doing with it. It's a blank form. There's nothing in it. So if you just print out the DBQ, take it to your doctor's office, leave it at the front desk and say, hey, can you have the doctor fill that out for me? And then leave and then come back and pick it up in 3 weeks. Chances are you're not going to have the information that you need in that DBQ to support your claim in the way that you're wanting to. So just know that. You would really have to sit there and understand exactly what you need in that DBQ, and then have a conversation with your doctor, eyeball to eyeball, and say, look, I'm really trying to really hone in on these specific aspects. It's for a VA disability compensation claim. This is what the schedule of ratings looks like for this condition. I really need to talk to these things in this DBQ. That's how you're going to get the right information in there. So just having a blank DBQ doesn't understand what the no-go. Just, you might as well not even submit it most of the time. There are going to be certain circumstances where, sure, it worked down and you feel like you got it done right. But I would venture to say that there's probably easily half of those where that's not the case. You maybe shortchanged yourself. You got a lower rating when it should have been a higher rating because the doctor didn't know what they were looking for. So highly suggest utilize AME if that's what you need, or Sharma, to get that type of information because it is that important. Now, something else, though, that this made me think of is another piece of legislation that I didn't bring up, and that is the Review Every Veterans Claim Act of 2025. The Review Every Veterans Claim Act of 2025 really is to push back on the VA's rubber stamping denials in the event that a veteran cannot make it to their C&P exam. So let's just say that you didn't supply everything that was needed for them to make a decision, and now you missed your C&P exam. They can't just deny you because you missed that exam, essentially is what they're calling for in this legislation as we see it kind of starting to develop. It is bipartisan in nature, so that's a good thing, good chance of getting it through. Life happens. And, sometimes it's, I don't have gas money. I don't have a ride. My ride fell through. Well, who knows? There was a car wreck on the freeway. You know what I mean? So communication is key with the VA with regard to exams. But really what this one is calling for is, it says right here, the legislation would prevent VA from denying a claim solely on the basis of a missed exam, and instead of requiring other factors to be considered and the claim to continue processing. So you don't want that rubber stamp. All right, go ahead and add in there.
Yeah, I was saying I definitely have my thoughts on that one. My mic was muted. So sure, benefit of the doubt given to the veteran in the event that they can't make their exam, so they can't be denied. I'm all for that. However, I cannot tell, and I'm not exaggerating this, I cannot tell you how many times I'm speaking to a veteran and they're just complaining, the VA sucks this, the VA sucks that, and they're just yapping and yapping and yapping and just regurgitating what they heard off of Reddit and Facebook, okay? And I'm like, all right, well, send me your decision letters. We Jason and myself have a claim company called Evidence-Based VA Claims. We have a very phenomenal small group of claim coaches. In fact, we get at least 10, 15 emails every week of people trying to get hired. and I'm just turning them away. We prefer a smaller group because I know the group we have don't suck, and that's kind of another segment there. Anyway, so I'm talking to this veteran. Many veterans like him. I'm like, all right, let me see your decision letter. Why did the VA deny you? Because you're complaining a lot, so obviously it's something. And I read the decision letter. The veteran didn't show up to their CMP exam, and I'm just like, okay, well, all that VA sucks this, VA sucks that. Like, that's not why you were denied. You're denied because you didn't go to your exam. I was like, okay, well, why didn't you? Oh, I just didn't. Blah, blah, blah. Excuse here, excuse there, excuse there. I forgot. And I'm just like, okay, well, that's pretty crazy that you couldn't make time for it if it wasn't an emergency situation. The reason why I think it's crazy is because we're not even going to say 100. We'll say 90% is what, $2,400 a month of non-taxable income, which is $2,400. You multiply that by 12, right, per year. That's a lot of money. Okay, that's a lot of freaking money, and your VA claim is $1 million deal. And so while I don't think the VA should be denying veterans on legitimate absences from CMP exams, I also think veterans are, and I'm so going to get hate for this. And before I say it, I'm going to say it like this, because it's gonna frame it the way I want it. When I was in the infantry, Jason and I were both in the infantry. We were both in the Marine Corps, decades apart, obviously.
Yeah.
But the infantry is the bottom of the barrel, dude. You'll have like 5% of your infantry, we'll say company, probably 5% of your company that are just like good dudes. They're smart. They could have went intel, but they just had the need to just go all in, and they were infantry. By the way, those are the best dudes you'll ever meet in your life. And then you have like the middle of the bunch where it's just like, I didn't want to go to college. My life sucked. I didn't know what to do. Now I'm here. That's it. Okay. And you'll have good and bad dudes. And then there's like 10% of just bottom of the barrel scum. And they still do their 4 years honorably, but those are the dudes that you gotta. When I was a sergeant, I had to make sure my PFCs and Lance Corporals did their taxes. Okay. Which is not in my purview, obviously, but that's who I'm talking about, who are just so irresponsible. And sure, they're a veteran, they do their 4 years, but guess what? Whenever they get into the civilian world, guess what? They're still the bottom of the barrel. And so there are millions of veterans out there who just suck. They just suck. And so those are the veterans that are missing CMP exams. And then after they miss the exams, they're putting the blame on the VA and not themselves. And I'm only saying that because I've seen it hundreds of times. Okay. So I think it goes both ways, right? Look at the veterans submitting, whatever claims they want. Anyways, let me get off that soapbox because it's only going to get worse from there. And we have 2 super chats. Okay. So Banhammer, thank you very much. Are they still processing claims now? That's a great question because there's 2 answers. Okay. The VA's official statement is that claims are still being processed. Disability benefits are still being processed. Pensions still being processed. And then healthcare is still going to happen. That's the official statement. Also, regional benefit offices are closed. And so now the question that you're really asking is, how long into the shutdown are we going to see a real impact on claims being processed? Because the VA also said that new claims will be delayed. All right. Now, the issue I have with that is how's the VA defining new claims, right? Is it to include HLRs and supplemental appeals? Are those new claims? Are BDD claims new claims? Is it both? Is it one? What's the definition of new claims? That we don't know. But yeah, do you have anything to add on? The answer is yes, but no, but maybe, but really no one knows. We'll see in a month.
Right. Yeah. Hey, and that's a great answer, right? That's definitely a political answer. So I think that the longer that we go through this whole government shutdown thing, it's definitely not going to be better for veterans the longer that this goes on.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, I will say this, that according to everything that I've read, whatever the number was, 97% or something of VA employees are still actually working. whatever that means. So the amount of physical impact to their staff is minimal. So it's not the people that greet the people walking through the doors at the regional offices, right? Because they're closed. So you don't need somebody there to open the door. There's a couple of the hotlines that are shut down. So there's a couple outreach things. So it's, you're talking a small percentage, a few thousand people or something that are not. So I would like to think that we're not going to really see any huge hiccups. However, there's some big issues with VR&E. VR&E is actually one that is more impacted as a program in general. So that one's very much impacted. One of the ones that really bother me, and this is not a Democrat or Republican thing. This is the way it always is with the VA. They stopped maintaining the VA cemeteries. So the maintenance of the grounds, like, oh yeah, there's no maintenance, which just blows my mind that you're going to leave I'll tell you what, if you don't mow your grass for a few, now granted, we're coming into the winter time, so it's going to slow down, but still, man, you don't mow your grass. So after a few weeks, it starts looking pretty shabby. So,
it gets harder to mow too.
Dude, it's oh yeah. Then it becomes a nightmare. You got all these clumps everywhere, so I just think, I think that should not be allowed. That's just my little soapbox. I think that, again, it doesn't affect me, but that's the wrong thing to do, is to let that slide. I could see not being able to put permanent markers, that type of stuff, kind of, but you should at least maintain the grounds. Anyway, back to you, Clay.
Yeah, we have another super chat. Thank you, by the way, for all of these. So Sean, I'm just going to say Z, thank you for being a member of someone's channel. Says, you are all amazing. Thanks for that. I actually look forward to watching the updates. I have not used your services yet, but have several claims out there. Then he has a two-parter. And real quick, we do have a claim company, Evidence-Based VA Claims. You can email us at vaclaims@ebvaclaims.com. You'll see that down below as well. And then the second part is waiting for a decision to come. If I'm denied, I will reach out. I've always said this, denials are where people make their money at. That's why attorneys and agents can charge on denials, because they're actually difficult. And so if you're facing a denial and you don't want to pay, 20, 25, 30% of your back pay, hit us up. We can at least take a look at it. We have a very small group of trained people on our team. One of them being a retired VA rater, and he trains like everyone else. And then when they have a question, they kind of rely on him. And it's just we have a really good small network system. And we're running, by the way, Jason, I don't know if you've seen our numbers this month. We're going like 100 miles an hour. And we took some time off this month. So yeah, everything's going great on our end. VR&E, that does suck. I'm seeing, I don't know if you're on TikTok or not, Jason, but there's
that's for the young people.
Yeah, there's a ton of because Gen Alpha, not Gen Alpha. Yeah, it is Gen Alpha. Gen Alpha is in college right now. They're the dependents that are on TikTok, and they're the dependents whose parents are 100% P&T, and they're all over the TikToks talking about, if you put an S on the end of TikTok, it's funny, TikToks. They're all over it talking about how, government sucks this, government sucks that. And I'm just like, yes, Gen Alpha's, anti-federal government. That's what I'm talking about, boy. But no, I'm kidding.
That's so funny.
But yeah, there's a few other legislations that are out. I'm going to shoot it back to you and kind of rope us back into what this live was all about.
Yeah, for sure. So, it's another one. So the one that I like, Clay, that's out there right now is that mileage. It's just funny to me, and it's not like it's this huge thing, but that mileage reimbursement aspect. The fact that the VA has not done anything for 15 years with regard to adjusting the amount we get for mileage reimbursement. It back then in 2010, it authorized the VA secretary to adjust the rate in line with future general service Administration, the GSA updates. Since then, the VA has not updated the rate for veterans. While the current rate for federal employees is 70 cents per mile, practically double. I mean, it's not, but just to hammer that point home, from 41.5 cents currently to a 70 cents is big. Now, this piece of legislation does more than just that. What it also does is it allows other entities to also get that mileage reimbursement. Okay. So in other words, your caregiver takes you, they can get reimbursed, right? You jump on the DAV van, right? So let's say DAV has a shuttle that takes people back and forth. They can then ask for that reimbursement as well. Same thing with your county veteran service office or organization. If they have a van ride program, they could also ask for that. Now, you got to think about it a little further than just its face. Why this is important is there are undoubtedly plenty of areas in the United States where there is no way to get to the appointment. However, if, say, a county veteran service office was able to get mileage reimbursement to pay for all the back and forths, they could probably get a county vehicle to utilize to do that because they're bringing in money to help offset it. So this is a huge thing. You get volunteers to drive, that type of stuff. So I think that if something like this passes, we can see the local governments, right, where the rubber meets the road, the county government throughout the nation being able to be more proactive in helping veterans obtain health care. I think that this is really, really important when you look at it that way, right? And what happens is we get this tunnel vision of, well, I just hop in my car and go, who cares, right? Well, guess what? Joe and Jane over here, they don't have a car, or they don't have the ability to drive. They're blind. They're missing a limb or limbs. They're bedridden, whatever the case is, and they need transportation, and this can help open that door. So again, this is the HEAL Act, the Heroes Earned Affordable Lifts Act. So not only does it increase the mileage rate for us driving ourselves, but also opens the doorway for other services as well to be able to get that. Any thoughts you have on that?
Yeah. Not that this applies. I mean, I'm just going to say it. Back in the day when I was making bad short choices, okay, we were drinking at the VFW. It's a great story, right? That's how a great story starts. I'm in the Marine Corps at the time. We go to the VFW on Wednesday night because they had 10-cent wings and like $1.50 drinks. And I was like, can't beat that, dude, right? I'm like in my 20s, whatever. So we go there. Absolutely, I'm DDing. All right, that did not last but 5 minutes. And so we just get obliterated. And then the VFW post drove us back to base. I was married at the time. So then I woke up the next morning and was like, hey, sorry, I'm at the barracks. That was a big talk, Yeah, not that has nothing to do with what you talked about. I don't even know if VFW would be able to claim that or not. Maybe under their like nonprofit arm, but probably not. Anyways, hey, it's a good legislation. There's another legislation out there. It's not new. It's the Choice Veterans Act, which is essentially pro-claim company, versus the GUARD Act, which is anti-claim company, pro-veteran service organization. Although I don't think any of them will pass ever, like never ever, the Choice for Veterans Act did catch steam, Jason. They now have, I want to say, 25 co-sponsors, which is a big increase from what it was before. And so since 2021, basically since COVID and the PACT Act, that's what really set these claim companies on fire, and mainly the VFW on fire. And we got the Plus and the GUARD Act. Those are basically dead in the water. Now you have the Choice for Veterans Act, and it is catching steam. And if there was ever a time it could catch steam, it would be right now. But again, I just don't see those bills passing. It's more of it's kind of over my head. It's more of a, hey, we're going to do this. and kick the can down the road as long as we possibly can, because
Right.
you're looking at companies who are sponsoring or who are funding
Lobbying.
those who have sponsored the bills. Yes, they're lobbying. We're talking millions of dollars here, and they are making millions of dollars every year. And I know this because evidence-based VA claims, we charge a very small fee, $13.99 one time up front. We have 100% money back guarantee. I know what we're making, and I can tell you off of the sales that we've had, Jason, if we did 5 times the increase,
Right.
I think we'd quit YouTube right now. Let's just say that.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know what they're making, and we have a small team. Okay.
Right.
And so I'm not a big fan of the Choice for Veterans Act because it is very clear. It props up predatory charges. Companies that charge veterans in a predatory manner, not necessarily veterans.
Right.
But hey, the bill did get some support. I don't think it'll be passed, but who am I to say?
Right. And here's the thing. Look, let's just set this thing straight. Clay and I have been working together with our joint channel for quite some time now. And what we have seen and what we had talked about forever was veterans are getting hosed by these big companies that are charging these, 5 times the amount of their increase and all of that stuff. And so it was turning out to be, you could either go to your free accredited resource or you could go pay 5 times. There really wasn't anything that was super legit in the middle with quality service. So we felt that we needed to step in and fill that gap because, quite frankly, nobody else was. Now, we are different than everybody else out there. We implore folks to go find your free accredited resource, have a conversation with them, see what they can do for you. Hopefully that works out. However, not everywhere in the nation is the same. I personally was an accredited veteran service officer. I ran a team of accredited reps, was highly involved in the county and at the state level for all things veteran. And we had a great office and we helped a lot of people. But I also knew some counties, a couple counties over, not so great. And sometimes it wasn't necessarily their fault. It was they weren't getting funded appropriately. They were very overwhelmed. They can only be reactive. And that caused a diminished service. So this is what we say. You go out, and if you can find yourself a free accredited resource that works, great. If they're capable and competent, awesome, go with it. If not, we're here to help you. And that's what really sets us apart. And then the fact that we hardly charge anything just to keep the lights on, keep things going, keep the wheels moving, keep our staff good. We're committed to really doing it at kind of the bare minimum. We guarantee, like Clay said, now you get a free email consultation. You get the resources that you need. You get the guidance you need. You get a designated coach. And then in the event that you don't get an increase, well, we guarantee you that you'll get an increase. And if you don't get an increase, get back with us. We're going to review it. We're going to see if we need to take a knee, adjust fire, help you get back on track with your next moves. And if that stuff doesn't work out, well, then we're going to end up refunding. So it's just important to kind of spell it all out there. It's not like we thought one day, you know what, let's put together a company. No, this was not really this was not on either one of our minds to come out and do. It's extra work. It's extra oversight. It's extra everything. So, but it needed to happen. And we are not fans of the 5 times ever. You should never, ever have to do that. And if anybody ever asks you for your login credentials for your VA account, that's crossing the line, and that has now become illegal. So now do not get caught up in fraudulent, illegal activities. We are above the board, legit, and we will help you get what you deserve in the best way possible. Anyway, that's a long story. Now, let's talk about this, Clay. We have still upcoming changes to the rating schedules. And, if we don't talk about it, it disappears and it's not going to happen. Let's talk about the fact that right now, people can still file for, let's talk about this. And then let's also talk about Washington Post real quick, just because they suck.
Yeah.
So,
I talked about that
so
all
in
day.
fact, yeah. So first, I'm just going to lay this out there, and then I'm going to loop back. We'll talk about Washington Post, then we'll dive back into the changes real quick. So, just for everybody's awareness, the rating schedule changes. They've already changed. The VA has already been on a constant changing of rating schedules path for nearly a decade, and they've changed about 10 rating schedules. The most recent legitimate changing of the rating schedules was for the digestive system. That was a year and a half ago or whatever. That's done. Now, the next 4 that are in line to fall, this is going to happen. It will happen. We just don't know when, is auditory, respiratory, mental health, and neurological. Those 4 rating schedules are changing. For the most part, not for the better. There are, in my opinion, a few good things in there, and in Clay's opinion, maybe one good thing. I think there's a little more, but with that, Clay, we do know that those are coming. It's better to act now and get your claim in process. Revisit where you're at with your claims, right? If you're not at 100% today, and keep in mind, don't shortchange yourself. Don't think, well, 100% is reserved for the most dramatic situations and I'll feel like I'm taking. No, wrong attitude. SMC is for the worst case scenarios. The 0 through 100% is really kind of that's for everybody. And you could be at 100% and still walk around, and that's okay. You need to make sure that all of your ratings are appropriate. Are you shorted on anything? Did you get shortchanged on a rating? Did you use a bad DBQ from your doctor that didn't outline everything the way that it needed to be, and you ended up getting a lower rating? Get with us. We'll look through your situation, see if you missed out on secondaries, see if there's room for increases, see if there's room for, maybe you missed a presumptive, maybe you missed something in your service treatment records for a direct service connection. There are a lot of opportunities that you do not want to miss, and you want to hit these before the rating schedules take effect. With that, Clay, what's your thoughts on the Washington Post?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few thoughts, Jason. It's pretty weird that the lady who was emailing me, because I've been emailing her and talking with her for like the past 2 years, and it's been all gravy. Everything's been fine. She's Lisa Ryan. That's how you pronounce her last name, in case you're curious. That's an inside joke there. But she's been emailing me, and then this article comes out, and obviously I blow up the article. I'm like, what the heck, dude? Like, what's going on? And so this goes back and forth. It's safe to say that she's not going to email me anymore. Let's just say that. But the big deal is the Washington Post did an article talking about how some veterans exploit the $193 billion, system that is VA disability compensation. And what they did, and this is why it's like they don't know, like, how did you expect veterans to take it, right? It's like they didn't even consider that, because what they did is they said, hey, veterans are frauds, and they really labeled all of us, me, Jason, everyone in the comments right now, everyone who's going to watch the stream after the fact, everyone who's watching it next week from now, all veterans are fraud. And that's how they started the article off. And then they went in and nitpicked cases, like the craziest cases, okay? Like someone faking they're blind and someone faking paralysis. And then they cited how they were indicted, prosecuted, and charged. And so essentially, and the VA secretary said it best, believe it or not, he said something that I agree with. He was like, all the Washington Post did was prove that we did what was required of us, right? That we found the fraud, we investigated the fraud, and then we prosecuted the fraud. But the Washington Post was talking about fraud and then said all veterans are kind of committing these heinous acts here. And it was just not good at all. And then the very next day, they doubled down and used some of the same language within the first article. And then now I'm kind of fast forwarding the story a bit. He's a Senate, is he Takano? Mark Takano.
Yeah, he's a congressman out of California.
Yeah. So he's been posting against the Washington Post, which is weird. And then he wrote an article, or he had an article published in Washington Post that was favorable to veterans. And now it's like the Wait Post kind of been like, did we make a big mistake? So that's what's going on. Charlie T, thank you very much. We definitely appreciate that. And then we had a second one here too from Gunnery Sergeant. Sorry, with the minion. This is so cool. You all rock. But yeah, the Washington Post sucks. I think they overly labeled all veterans. And then at the same time, so 100% Washington Post sucks. But I do want to say, I don't think veterans should be all over the internet talking about how they're getting VA disability. I just saw a TikTok today. I know I'm on TikToks, okay? Very young, and I see them every day. Very young female, 22, 23, bragging about her 100% VA disability, and kind of like shoving it in people's faces. And she had money in her hands and was like doing it for the content or whatever. Listen, that's not the image you want to give the American public, because we are paid by taxpayer funds. Okay.
Right.
I mean, that's bottom line. And so in one sense, there is an argument there. And I would say if you tell a civilian about your VA disability, you should expect a civilian answer. Like that should be expected. Just like if the Washington Post slams veterans, they should expect a veteran answer. And so just food for thought. Washington Post sucks, but I also think veterans can be better at not being stupid, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I 1,000%. So yes on that, but back to the Washington Post piece. It does two super negative things. Okay, let's take the veteran piece out of it for a second and just go with the Washington Post aspect. It does two horrific things. One, it pits the American public against the veteran. Okay, so, and for those of you that haven't read the Washington Post thing, we've done a few videos on that. So it pits the American people against the veteran. Number one, that's horrible. We do not need that in our nation. In a nation, and in my opinion, and maybe you guys agree, and I get it, I'm talking to a veteran community, so I'm a little bit safe in doing this, I guess. I feel like we're going backwards with where we should be in regard to, there needs to be a little bit more patriotism, right? Hey, thank you for your service type of thing. I know that we don't love to hear that, but at least feeling like it's appreciated in some sort of a weird way, even if it's not spoken, there needs to be a little bit more of, for serving our nation. We are special. We're a special group. I said this in a video recently. I'm going to say it again. We are a special group of individuals, and it's not just because we served in the military. I think that serving in the military, but we were special people before we joined. Because look, a very small amount of people do what we did. A very small amount of people take on the responsibilities that we did at a very young age. And I don't care what your service transpired into, meaning where you went and all that stuff. We all signed the same blank check and we get zero control, right? So everybody's equal in my mind when it comes to that. So I think it's really sad that the Washington Post is essentially helping to drive a wedge between the American people and veterans. That's the one thing. The second thing that is horrific is, and again, I feel like we're going backwards. We went from the Vietnam era, who was basically telling the government to kick rocks and just walked away, and it never really talked about their service, didn't seek any sort of benefits, just walked away. And it took years for our Vietnam folks. Thank you for your service, by the way. Anybody Vietnam era, I appreciate you more than you know. So it took years, decades, to get over that hump and going and actually stepping. I know Vietnam folks that won't even walk into a VA. Anyway, I feel like This Washington Post piece also shames veterans. That is, if keep in mind, 7% of veterans did not file or aren't receiving VA disability compensation. 70% ish. So what about if they're thinking about, well, maybe, maybe enough people talk to me about it. Maybe I heard Jason enough. Maybe I heard Clay enough. Maybe now I'm thinking I'm going to do it. Then they read that Washington Post piece and are like, oh, never mind. I don't want to do that, because now you've been shamed. So what does that do? Let's bouncing ball, because this is shit that drives me nuts, Clay. Imagine for a second. The person has PTSD, MST, any host of service connectable conditions, but they haven't went to the VA. There's a lot of them out there. And now they've been shamed by the Washington Post, so they don't go file their claim. And guess what? Their VA disability claim is the conduit into the VA healthcare system where they can actually get treatment. And now, thanks to the Washington Post, we got people not getting treatment. This is the way that I look at it, and it really pisses me off, Clay. It really does. And, I wish that there was something more that I could do. Unfortunately, Washington Post makes me pay for a subscription so I could read their garbage articles to share them with everybody. Otherwise, I'd cancel it. Anyway, so that's just my thoughts on it. And it really does rub me the wrong way on those 2 points, right? It shames veterans and it pits the American people against the veteran. Last piece I'll say, Clay, and I'll kick it back to you, is yes, I agree. We don't need veterans out there on the TikToks, as you say, doing stupid things, talking about government money. That's
Yeah. Well, Cheryl Stock, thank you very much for being a member, and you gifted a membership on Veterans Info Tap. So I'm sure Jason definitely appreciates that. The gifts are random, by the way. I had to figure that out the hard way. But yeah, the Washington Post is stupid. I also think veterans are stupid. And we could do better at not being stupid, basically. There's another person, Jason, his name's Caleb Hammer. He's essentially a financial advisor, and he records his interviews. And people who go on his show are in financial distress. Let's just say that. And 9 times out of 10, it's a veteran who made some really poor financial decisions, and now they're living paycheck to paycheck, and they have debt, but they collect VA disability, and they're taking trips to Disney World and all this stuff instead of paying off their debt. That's like the whole premise of the show. And Caleb Hammer got really mad at veterans and made this like one piece of content essentially slamming veterans for collecting VA disability and making poor decisions. Now, I already know everyone who knows what I'm talking about is going to say Caleb is terrible, okay? And that's totally fine. I would slightly agree with you. However, I still stand on, if you tell a civilian about VA disability compensation, you should expect a civilian answer. And so let me just give you one little snippet of this veteran, okay? It was a veteran, maybe 300 pounds. I'm not joking, okay? Very poor tattoo artwork on her arms. She's in debt. She doesn't work, not because she can't work, because she chooses not to work because she's 100% P&T. She's not IU. She's 100% P&T, chooses not to work. She's in crippling debt, and she's one of those people that go to Disney World and goes all out. Now, listen, I like Disney World too. Okay, if you know me long enough, this is a Darth Maul lightsaber I bought.
You don't want to know where he pulled that out from.
Yeah, so it was just laying right here. I like my Disney too, don't get me wrong. These little cups right here, the Star Wars Coca-Cola cups from Disney. I like Disney too. Okay, but you have this severely overweight woman talking about how awesome her life is because she gets 100% P&T, and she's just wasting away taxpayer dollars going to Disney World, and she's in crippling debt. And of course, whenever she says that to a civilian, they're going to have a civilian answer. And I don't think Caleb's wrong for that personally. And it goes back to what I said that, hey, veterans are not, when I was in service, every Marine I met was not like honor, courage, commitment, just spewing with joy and happiness. You know, most of the times it was bottom of the barrel people. And guess what? Whenever they do their 4 years honorably and they get out, they're bottom of the barrel veterans. And so I'm going to stand on that. I know that's going to make people mad. But yes, there are absolutely veterans out there that are just stupid. And that's the choice of words I'll make on that. For instance, and it links back to Washington Post as well. You have veterans who are faking blindness, which, by the way, is a commitment like I've never seen before. How do you train yourself not to flinch, you know, when something happens, or the commitment of bringing a wheelchair, driving to the VA, getting in the wheelchair, and then having the discipline to not move your legs while you're having your exams, right? That's insane to me. And the Washington Post used those veterans to basically blanket that we're all frauds. And yeah, you know, I read the entire article line by line, which took like an hour and a half, by the way, because it was a huge piece. And that's what bothers me, Jason, is the Washington Post, the writers of that did put time into it, a lot of time, when it comes to investigating and getting those reports and then writing the article and structuring it the way to tell the story that they want. They did put time into it. And what surprised me most is when I read it, there were things that were just off. If I had the article up right now, I would show you. But one of the sections talks about how a veteran was denied for depression. Okay. And something, fraud, whatever, sleep apnea, mental health, all this other stuff. And then right below it, it was like, okay, so although the veteran was denied for depression, they tried to do all these things. And then it mentioned that they're already service connected for PTSD. And immediately I'm just like, whoever wrote this has no idea what they're talking about, because even if they were connected for depression, it makes no change. The VA doesn't rate diagnosis. They rate symptoms. One of the I think most veterans understand that mental health is rated under an umbrella.
Yep.
Most veterans understand that. Even if you're brand new, that's like one of the first things you find out. And it's just crazy to me that the Washington Post didn't pick up on that, which also is a clear indicator that they didn't speak to veterans on veteran issues. They spoke to, D-bags and officers. Anyways.
Right. Look, here's the thing. It was a specific narrative that they were trying to paint. This was intentional. This was a hit piece. Have no doubt about it. Here's my reasoning behind it. They're throwing out hay fever. They called out hay fever, like, oh, veterans, signing up for hay fever. Okay. Hay fever is actually a slang term for rhinitis. So they're talking about Gulf War presumptives and make light of it. So that's intentional. It's intentional to use that word, hay fever, because it sounds like, oh, you got some allergies. Oh, you're getting money for that? What the hell? When really it's rhinitis, and it's more likely than not, which is why it's a presumptive by the medical community. Not by me, not by you, by the medical community, that it would be caused from burn pits. So that is another thing that irritates me. And really that points to the fact that they're doing that. Then they also threw out hair loss, right? Hair loss. You know what the VA rates for hair loss? Alopecia. Alopecia. That's what they'll rate for. And scarring and non-scarring alopecia. There's probably not very many of those, just saying. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't even pay. It's not even like it's a big dollar amount. And the only thing I could think of for hair loss would be, again, scarring from like maybe a burn or something, right? So maybe you got severe burns and you have hair loss. Maybe you're getting great burn and individual effects from that. And it's like, really, you're gonna use these as your examples? And then they call out the PACT Act, making it easier for veterans to receive VA disability compensation, like it's for anything. The damn PACT Act was 99% for combat veterans that were in theater in Vietnam or in Gulf Wars, wherever you want to be, for presumptive conditions. That's what they made easier. Don't you think that those should be easier claims for these folks? Don't you think they should be? That's the answer. Yes. And so I did a piece. If you guys haven't watched this, I did the real story and what the story should have been instead of the Washington Post version. And the real story is veterans are accessing more now than ever because of awareness, because of lack of stigma or the reduction of stigma. And these are the positive things that are happening. And that's the real story out there. And that's what should be talked about. Anyway, back over to you, Clay.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I also think we've been running this for an hour and 10 minutes, and I have to go. So I think we should end this stream if that's cool with you. But yeah,
Yes,
there are changes out there with legislation where legislation is introduced. Some has passed the House. Some passed the Senate. It's got to be reviewed at. Some probably won't pass at all, but we're going to keep our eye on it. We're definitely keeping an eye on the changes that I have up here. I check this website every single morning, by the way. It's kind of like my routine I do. And yeah, so if anything changes, you'll be the first to know because we will probably be the first to know. But anyways, Jason, that's all I got. If you want to go ahead and take it away from here.
All right. Hey, thank you guys so much. We really do appreciate all of your continued support day after day and month after month and year after year. We will be here bringing you the current and relevant information. We're always doing new videos. We're really not let's recirculate old stuff. We really give you new, fresh information, mindsets, things change. We try to bring that to you. So thanks again. One family, one team, one fight. We appreciate it all. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate you. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.